What's up everyone, I'm Eldritch and welcome back to your daily dose of donkey, the show where I bring you a little bit of my stupid donkey face every day. It is Saturday, so we are of course once again talking about Camelot Unchained and specifically yesterday's class reveal. This is the one that won and it turns out to be the Archers. Big surprise there. I was honestly shocked that this one won because it was pretty obvious that it was going to be Archers. You could pretty clearly see the bows in all three of these guys. So I thought people might want to find out about some of the others where it really isn't that clear what it's going to be. But people picked Archers and so let's look at them. First, we are going to look at the Viking Archer, the Winter's Shadow. The Winter's Shadow seems to be very heavily inspired by the Norse god Ullr, or as he was known to the Germanic tribes, Vultos. Vultos was a god of the hunt, and he was a master skier. Now that might sound ridiculous to someone who's never seen a goddamn mountain in their lives before, but if you lived in Central Europe with so many friggin' mountains and large hills everywhere, you would understand why a masterful skier is actually someone worth worshipping. So as to the Winter's Shadow's components, the first one we have is the ambush shot, which is usable while camouflaged. Camouflage, by the way, all archers have. It's sort of like a shitty version of stealth, but it's not really stealth. They always kind of describe it like the Predator in the Predator movies, so that you sort of see a glimmer moving when they move past you. And it's supposed to be more of like a stationary kind of stealth, where you lie in ambush instead of actually stalking people. And using an ability will pull you out of camouflage, except ambush shot does not. Next we have the Furious Reload. Quickly loads an arrow with reduced preparation time based on the damage of the user's previous shot within a brief duration. And so obviously this synergizes really well with the ambush shot. If you get them from behind and deal a boatload of damage, Furious Reload is gonna have a much shorter preparation time and you can immediately fire another shot right afterwards. Impetuous Draw draws a loaded bow with low preparation and recovery time, but with a penalty to power the longer the draw is held. So you draw your bow and you hold that until you're ready to fire. This can be pretty useful if you're in a dungeon, for example, and you're going around a corner. You can draw an arrow and be ready to fire the instant you come around the corner, and if there's something, you can immediately shoot at it. Raging Bash is of course not a bow ability, that's used with a shield, and it uses a shield to slam a hostile target, knocking them back and applying a physical debuff that reduces movement speed and increases ability preparation time for a brief duration. So you can basically use this to smack someone away, run backwards, grab your bow again and fire at them while they are slowed. Or if you're playing in a group, you can use it to push someone away from your healer and give them the breathing space they need to perform their miraculous craft. And then lastly we have the Heavy War Arrow, which is a moderate range projectile that inflicts high damage and causes very high disruption damage if the target's armor is penetrated. Disruption damage basically goes toward a pool, and if you crack that pool, you can interrupt an ability that the target is preparing at the time. So for example, that mage loads up a really nasty huge fireball of doom, you fire a couple of heavy war arrows with lower preparation times into him until you disrupt his ability. All in all, with it appearing to be a short-range skirmish archer, I can really see the Winter's Shadow working great in groups. For the Arthurians, we have the Blagger. Now I read the background and I tried to find something, but I gotta be honest, I'm not super familiar with British folklore, and I couldn't really find anything about this Edward that it was talking about. But let's be honest, we're talking about England here. Do we really need a half-true folklore story to realize that they really care about archery? I mean, does the English longbow ring any bells? Or how about Robin Hood? The longbow is as integral to British folklore and tradition as the katana is to Japanese tradition. Now let's look at the components. First we have the Adept Shot, which fires a precise shot which deals bonus damage and significantly increases armor penetration. Now armor penetration is of course very important for archery. If you don't penetrate the target's armor, you do no damage whatsoever. And I'm thinking Adept Shot is probably going to be one of the more common shapes for a blackguard, and I base that on absolutely no facts whatsoever. I'm just thinking it sounds like one of those abilities that is going to strike really popular with players. I mean, precise shot, that's accurate, that deals bonus damage, that's always good, and it significantly increases armor penetration. Like, there's nothing bad about this shape. It's all plus. Unless, of course, the preparation time is 20 seconds. That could cause people to not want to play it. Then we have the following shot, usable after a shot which strikes and penetrates the armor of a target. Fires an efficient shot that gains a bonus to projectile speed and armor penetration with low stamina cost and preparation time. Now if you of course fire with your adept shot shape and you penetrate the target's armor, you can use an ability that uses the following shot shape. So as we can see so far, the Blagger really focuses very tightly on all of that good archery stuff, where you really rely on your bow, and the better you fire your arrows, the better bonuses you get for the next shots, and you have combos and all of that good stuff that gets archer players really excited. And then we have our first effect for the Blagger, the flight arrow, an arrow which is fired with a high arc and travels over an extended distance. Now how could the realm that takes its inspiration from the English governor not have a really long-ranged kind of longbow shot? Don't kid yourself, it was inevitable. And then we have the Black Arrow, an exceptional arrow that deals high bonus damage to living targets based on the total amount of health they are missing. Now let's completely ignore that this is kind of like an execute shot, and let's focus entirely on the fact that it says living targets. Now that is interesting to me. Are you suggesting that there are unliving targets? Zombies perhaps? Ghouls? Ghosts? Oh, you tease me so, City State Entertainment. Last but certainly not least, we have the Precision Sight modal, which increases ability preparation and recovery times while prominently displaying damage states on enemy characters. Now this is an interesting one of those alterations to an ability, where you willingly increase the preparation and recovery time to get a cool effect. And in this case, you fire an arrow and then you see where the target is damaged. Because yes, if everything goes well, Camelot Unchained will have different hit zones. Arms, legs, head, chest, and they will all have different armor and health values. And so seeing where someone is hurt lets you then pick an ability that aims for a specific part of that player to more easily kill him. So if you, for example, see that they've already taken a ton of damage to the knee, yeah, I'm not gonna finish that joke. So we can take from this that the Blagger is the one that focuses the most on pure archery. You have long range, you have some short range stuff, and then lastly we come to the Tuatha Danann archers, the forest stalkers. Nature of course plays a big part in Celtic mythology. From what I know about Irish and Gaulish mythology and from what I looked up today, I really couldn't find anything specific that would lead to this sort of class. But what I do know about Celtic tribes is that there is very, very little archery tradition. Pretty much across all Celtic societies, the spear and the javelin were the ranged and reach weapons of choice. And so let's look at these components that the Tuatha Danann archer gets. First we have the rapid fire modal, which greatly reduces preparation and recovery times on bow abilities, but increases their stamina costs and reduces their damage slightly. Interesting, you'd get to fire off more abilities, but they are weaker and they cost more stamina. Entangling Creeper? Huh. Seeds this arrow with a plant that buries itself in the ground when it lands. It then latches onto nearby enemies, reducing their movement speed the further they move until expiration, or until the plant is destroyed? Huh. Well, let's read the next one. Fungal Burst. Seeds the arrow with a plant that buries itself in the ground when it lands. If the plant isn't destroyed, it will burst after a short duration, releasing a cloud of spores. Gargantuan Tendril. Seeds this arrow with a plant that buries itself in the ground when it lands. The plant quickly grows into a massive vine that lasts for a long duration. The vine lashes out and knocks back enemies that come into contact with it, dealing crushing... Oh my god! It's Plants vs Vikings! Okay, joking aside. Basically with these shapes, you transform your arrows into something that you don't necessarily fire at an enemy, but something that you fire at the ground near enemies or just set up a couple of plants. Alright, let's do this a little bit differently. This can go one of two ways. Either this class focuses heavily on putting plants in the ground and using those plants to attack enemies, and then maybe just using the bow as sort of a support weapon or like to tell your plants who to attack, i.e. Plants vs Vikings. And very reminiscent of the Animist from Dark Age of Camelot. Now if that is the case, then this class, in my opinion, is really cool. Because it is a completely different take on an archer. It says, alright, Celts didn't really give a shit about bows, so we'll turn the bows into a delivery method for something they cared about, namely nature. And I know there's people who love archers and they play elf archers and they call them Legolas, and they would be really upset about something like this. But I gotta be honest, I think that would be a badass idea. It would be something completely different. The Animist in Dark Age of Camelot was probably one of my favorite classes. Not necessarily a class I wanted to play as a main, but just from its idea, I think it was an amazing class concept. And this could have the potential to be sort of like that, just as an archer. The other option is, of course, that it's just an archer and that this whole plant business is just sort of a gimmick. And if that's the case, then I have to say I am not a fan whatsoever. Because if there's one fantasy trope that I'm absolutely sick of, it's archers with nature magic. I fucking hate archers with nature magic. Archery is so cool. I love everything about archery. Longbows are cool, horse archery is cool, Japanese Kyodo is really cool. I would have no problem playing a character that entirely focuses on archery. I think the Blagger is really quite awesome. And if it was on my realm, I would totally play it. But when it comes to the Forest Stalker, it would definitely have to be option 1. Option 2 sounds lame. So there you go, CSE, that's my opinion. I would like to see a TDD archer that focuses a lot on just planting stuff and being a badass gardener. Please don't make it an archer with nature magic. It's such a lame trope. It's almost as bad as wizards that look like Gandalf. Ah, fuck. Alright guys, that's it for this class reveal. I'll see you once again next week on Saturday when we're talking about whatever the community voted then. But until then, I've been the Cloaking Donkey and I'll see you in another video.